All right, we're playing some Triple Triad. This is the what number GB is this? This is GB number 18. Um, Glad to get a closed game. Looking forward to playing some closed. GB 17 was the first open GB, and I did end up winning it. Didn't record any of the games, but you know, sometimes you're not on the ball. But I'm looking forward to trying to get back into closed form because I think I've been pretty poor for a bit. There was a closed monthly GB, and I won 2 games out of 15 and lost 7. So that was a truly miserable run. I think I was fairly unlucky, but also played very badly, and I'm hoping to get in better form. Level 5 and 6 is, I think, a pretty good combination. Level 5 is always one of the levels that has more tools at dealing with cards from other levels than, other levels do. It's one of the best kind of combined with the higher level ones. And when combined with lower levels, I think tends to not work as well because it kind of overpowers them. It's a very strong level. Like you look at like 4, 6, 5, 7, right? And on level 5 itself, it's okay. It has some ability to deal with 7s. Gaps of 1 will always find ways to plus things. But if you look at it as a card to deal with higher level stuff, it has 2 different ways to plus wall 8s. It has many ways to plus wall 9s. It's going to be a relevant card as you add levels like 6, 7, and 8. And so I think that kind of thing is pretty useful. All right, he starts with a weak corner. Let's wish him best of luck. And first thing I kind of am going to look for, I think, is matching numbers. So one thing I notice is my 5873 has a 3 facing its 3, but I can't really set up a same there. But my 6636, I could if I put something with a 6 down and 5, or a 6 left and 5, which I could do. So one move that comes to mind is 2866 and 5. I could also look to play a big corner, though I'm not seeing any setups. In general, if I am going to play a corner, I want to play something that I think is potentially difficult for him to take, create some challenge. I also like adjacent corners, I just don't seem to have any well supported. My hand is very kind of downright focused. I think I'm going to go for what is a little more synergistic. I set up a same in 4. I give myself a plus wall in 8. I am unlikely to have to play in 6, which I do not have, but I also think the odds of me having to play there are not that high, or the odds of me having to play there and capture are not that high. And the reason for that is the main squares he can play in right now are 2, 3, and 6. If he plays in 6, obviously I never have to play in 6. If he plays in 2, I have a moment to potentially, and maybe I don't have a good move for there. I was going to say I might go in 3, and then either he goes in 6 or I have set up 6 for myself. I don't actually have a way to have set up 6 for myself there. But I think even against 2, unlikely we'll have to go in 6 if we don't want to. And if they go 3, I might block 6 immediately, and I don't much care that I'm not comboing because it doesn't need to at that point. So I think 6 is a square that I don't really, not that this is important, I'm just saying whatever comes to mind. But 6 is a square I don't really care that much if I have covered. Obviously, I'd rather have it than not have it. But I think it's okay to not have a square like that. I like that I can slide in 8 with 5873. That may be my next move. Depending on if I do have some... I'm more likely to do that if I do have stuff in 2 or 6, and it currently looks unlikely I will have either. But if they go in 3, and I have some play in either 2 or 6, I might go in 8 with the point I can then combo back from either 4 or 1 of 2 or 6. Specifically with 5873. Which both creates challenge for them to potentially take, and is weak to 5 that lets me kind of slide around it later and set stuff up. Turns out I probably would like action in 6 for that kind of thing. So if they play in 3, I'd love them to play with an 8 or 6 down. That would be very friendly of them. I don't have a way to slide in 2. I tend to think of second turn currently as a lot about kind of sliding next to their center card. And usually getting kind of a queue formation where you slide on the second to last move. So kind of they go 3, I go say 8, they go 4, and then I play 1 of 2 or 6 with the intent that when they take say 2 from 1, I combo from 6, and that combo flips 5, which then flips 2. That kind of idea. And you can force some ties there if you have it nicely set up, or even have a chance to win if you have high out facing. And that's sort of been the direction I've been going, but I also haven't been playing that well. My old thesis when I was playing better was kind of the first 3 turns of the game are maximizing synergy. The 4th and 5th turns... Nope, I don't remember what my patterns were. Should probably go back, watch my own videos, because I was doing well when I had this thought process. But this first move was definitely maximizing synergy, so I'm sure my my old and somewhat better playing closed self would have appreciated it. Yevon has been doing really well of late. I just, as I record this, came out with my February power rankings. I'm sure you'll be seeing this in like March or April. Sorry, my January power rankings. So you'll be seeing this way later, but Yevon has repeatedly been placing quite high and made my leaderboard once again this month. If I bring it up. Yevon came 8th in my November rank, moved up to 7th in my December rank, came 7th in my overall 2021 rank. I never published my December rank, but I have put it together. And then moved up to 6th in my January rankings, and has a very good chance to start moving higher because I told you 6 didn't matter. So my 6627 has a lot of potential play someday. There's also a good chance he has a 6627 type of card, given that he is now doubled up on having 6s facing down. Alright, which squares do I have? I have 4, I kind of have 8, I have 9, I have 3. I have too many squares. I'm going to have to block one of my own squares. How do we want to do it? And the problem is I have cards that, for instance, if I think, okay, I have the combo in 9, so let's go in 3 such that I can combo back in 9, right? But which card do I put in 3? I can't use 6726 because that's my combo back. I can't use something with a 7 down because then I have no trick there. And if I use the 6636, I am giving up 4. Now, maybe it's okay to give up 4. Maybe I don't need the same there. I have ways to overpower. I still have captures there. But it seems a concession. Alright, so another thing. I have the combo in 3. So I might think I can go in 9, but which card do I play in 9? Right? I can't do something with a 6 up, or I have no combo tricks. So it has, and it can't be 4675 because that's my combo card. So it would have to be 5, 8, 7, 3, and 9. And if they can take that without flipping 5, then if I combo back, they probably combo back on me, or at least have a good chance to. So I don't love that. I don't think plays in 1 are any good. It gives them 4 for free, and there's no combo potential on that square. I'm not going to consider a move in 2. I think that would be silly. So then there's 4 or 8. I have no tricks on 8, meaning I can't play a card in 8 ready to combo back from 4. So potentially I play 4, but do I want to give up my same there already? Am I getting enough for it? Probably not, because if I'm going to play 4, I would like a good chance to be able to attack anything they put in 1, and I'm not good directionally in that direction. You know, it's a tough direction for me going left, essentially. So that brings me back to going in 3 or 9. And I could go 6, 6, 3, 6, and 3. And the thing I like about that is if they play 2, they will flip 5, very likely. You know, it is very unlikely for them to have a move there. Admittedly, if they have 6, 7, 2, 6, which they may well have, they'd have a way. But I think the appealing thing about that is if they go 2, they have to flip 5, and then my combo back in 9 is pretty strong. If I instead go in 9, I would have to use 5, 8, 7, 3, a card I'm probably okay with getting out of my hand. I guess I'm going to go with that. I... Well, it sort of forces him to go an 8. Even if he can go an 8 without flipping 5, I might just play 4 and say the game's 5-5, and hopefully I'm okay. If they go 1 there, which is a little weird, I think the normal move would be 3. If they go 1 there, I could easily walk into trouble. Also, if they go 8 and don't flip 5, I might be able to go 3. Probably not, because I never have the combo in 2, so if they combo from 4, maybe I just lose. But probably not. Yeah, so if they don't flip 5, I probably have to go 4, and that position's pretty bad. So I think I should have gone in 3. I think that's probably the better move. But wasn't sure how to deal with this. I think it's easy and closed to think like, what's the worst case scenario, and do the thing with the least bad worst case scenario. But that is also not how you should play, because you will not regularly hit the worst case scenario. You should play to your kind of normal situation. And there are other people who kind of do best case scenario. Like, I set up this huge combo, and if they let me go in that square, I'm going to win. But like, they block that square and suddenly you lose horribly. And because that square was the obvious combo square, like, you're probably losing that game, right? We don't want to have best case scenario thinking. We don't want to have worst case scenario thinking. We want to have kind of median case thinking. And I think it's so easy for them to take a 3. And there are so many cards with, less than a 6 up. 6 are not free captures on this kind of set, that it is very likely they can just go 8 here very comfortably. And so the median case scenario is I end up with this uncomfortable blocked 5-5 where I think I'm worse and in trouble. So I think the median case scenario after this move is pretty bad. And I think after the move in 3, the median case scenario is much better. They go in 4. That's a kind of awkward Z for me, but it's certainly better than if they go in 8 here. If I went in 3 and they go in 4. And if they go in 2, I'm probably in pretty good shape. So I think made the wrong choice here. I think this was a really poor play. And I gotta make better decisions in closed. I also think there are a lot of good players who would just go in 4 there, and I don't have the feel for that kind of move. Now, him thinking a while might be a good sign. It might increase the odds he doesn't have 4. It is much more likely, I think, he has 8 than he has 4, because he played with another 6 down. That, to my eyes, increases the odds he has something that plays well off 6s. Now, it might just be he has, something with a 7 up or an 8 up and is comfortable retaking. But I think with him repeating a number facing in a direction, there's decent odds he's playing. He gives me 8. Well, I want 8. I will certainly take that. If I go 8 and he goes 1, I can tie in either 2 or 4, because I will have 4 locked in cards. If I go 8 and he goes 4, I have to take a risk in 2, right? I do have to take a risk in 2. So the obvious card to use is 6-7-2-6. But here's what I'm thinking about. If I use 6-6-3-6 and 8, or if I use 6-7-2-6 and 8, and they go in 2, I go in 4, and I probably win, actually, because I've just comboed the thing in 5 that they probably had to take from 2, and I likely win. If they go in 1, easy for me to go in either 2 or 4, and I have at least a tie, right? So 6-6-3-6 and 8 plays really well unless they go 4. And if they go 4, 6-7-2-6 and 8 plays really well unless they go 4. If they go 4, I probably have to play in 2 going up 6-4, and I am very vulnerable to a random combo at the end. And if that combo hits me, I do lose 7-3. Now I think they're most likely to go in 4 because 2 so obviously walks into a really risky combo in a way that 4 doesn't as much. 4, it's easier to, for instance, not capture 5 if you don't want to. So my idea of 6-6-3-6 was, if they go 2, it is much worse for me. But I've already captured 7, so I could go 6-7-2-6 in 4, and I'm only risking losing 6-4 there. If they go in 1, it's easy for me to slide in either 2 or 4. And if they go in 4, and they do flip 5, I can still go 4-6-7-5 and 2. It's similar, but if they don't flip 5, I can go 6-7-2-6 and 2, and I have less risk on the counter combo. So I think using 6-6-3-6 and 8 now is mitigating risk, but lowering my upside. I just think it's so likely he goes in 4. I don't know. I think it would be so weird to go in 2. If he goes in 1, it doesn't really matter either way. So I think there's just a very good chance he goes in 4. I'm going to try to play fancy here. I'm going to try to do the move that is the very much, I think, non-obvious move here. Giving up my same in 4. Lunacy, they say. It is much worse now if he goes in 2 for me than the other version. Much worse. Because I will have to play 6-7-2-6 and 4, and instead of guaranteeing a tie in 4, I potentially lose. I usually would not make this move. Talking it out, it made sense to me. Now I wish I hadn't done it. Oh dear. I do tell people in open, just make the normal move. Like, we don't have to be fancy. You know, there are spots where fanciness is required, but in so many situations, you can make the normal move work, and it's pretty good. Being better at identifying the normal move and then playing it is so important. And then I play games like this in closed, where just every turn I am not making what I consider the normal move. Now, my move in 9 worked out great because they gave me 8, but I really think, yeah, suddenly, like, 2 is scary instead of 2 is what I want to see. I still think it's so unlikely he goes in 2, though. Maybe it was a good idea. I think it's so unlikely he plays in 2. I cannot lose to 1. And against 3, I think I am better situated. I think if they had... Oh, sorry, against 4. If they had gone in 4 and I still had the 6-6-3-6 in my hand, I still think I'm blocking 2 if I need to double capture with the 4-6-7-5. I think 5s are harder to combo than 6s. I think, on these rules. I could be wrong on that. So I think I'd still be playing the 4-6-7-5 and 2. There is the chance that the 6 is just enough harder for them to take that that's wrong. I'm not good at endgame closed math. But I kind of think the most likely move is they go 4 without capturing. They had the same there too. Well, now, if I had played it differently, and I guess I was right that they would go 4, if I had played it differently, I would have 6-6-3-6 instead of 6-7-2-6, and I would have the option to go 2 with the 6 to the left, but I don't think I want to. I think 1 gaps are the most commonly comboed things, especially seeing a 7. I don't want a 6 out facing. Now, there's a perfectly good chance when we see the cards that would have worked and this won't, but I think you have to, you can't give the 1 gap. It's just so much more likely to combo 1 gaps. And I should go be ready to post this. So we have game number 1472, Yevon closed, Yevon first turn. And how many points will we get? Don't combo me. I don't know what to think of my move in 8. Tell me in the comments. No one ever comments, but that's okay. If you watch this video, please tell me what you think of my move in 8. I think 9 was a mistake and I should have played 3, but I'm really not sure which card belonged in 8. I think 2, you know, I didn't have a choice in 2 as the game played out. I also could have played 1, but then I have no winning chances at all. And I think it is worth having slight winning chances. Yes! See, 5 was better than 6. You never want to put out the 6 there. Alright, we get our tie in game 1. Big tie. Always proud to tie on second turn and closed. And let's see if we can get more games. So, a couple interesting points there, I guess. I didn't see a good alternative to my move in 5. I think some people would have thrown something weakish in 3, and I think that's okay as well. If I was going to play an adjacent corner... Turds might have done something weird in the far side. I'm not going to do that. That was not to be mean to Turds. Turds is a better close player than I am. But I could have maybe chucked something in 9, but the thing about if you go in 9 and they just like go in 8 or something and you can't plus wall with anything, you just have to overpower. It's just so easy on second turn to walk into terrible combos at some point and have first turn be able to set up automatic wins. So unless you have some comfortable ways to get stuff back, I don't know. 9 felt weird to me. So I think the choice was 3 or 5 there. I think 5 was logical. I think I played well on the first move. I think my second move, I should have gone in 3 rather than 9. I was lucky they chose not to occupy 8. And then I did have the decision of how to occupy 8. And I think I probably chose wrongly, but it's close. As the game went, it would have worked the same way either way, because their play in 4 did flip 5. But if their play in 4 hadn't flipped 5, and they're very likely to go 4 there, then I'd rather have the 6-7-2-6 at the end. Which admittedly would have lost me the game against their actual card. So, take that for what you will. But I think that slightly maybe mitigate risk. It's a close decision. It probably is close, but I clearly went wrongly. Because there can be decisions that are not close, but it's really hard to tell which is better, but it's a big swing, but you're not able to identify. There are other decisions where one is clearly just a slightly better version of the other, and it's only a little better, but it's obvious it's better. And I bet to a better close player, that decision would be like, yeah, you made the wrong call, it's close, you didn't lose a lot, but bad call. Alright, I guess we could take Yevon's game again. I'm hoping for closed games. I'm trying to work on my closed again. But, yes, we got there. Alright, another second turn. That's rough. My really poor run in the last closed GB, the fun one, was heavily affected by getting... In my 15 games, I ended up maybe getting 5 first turns, but I had 1 out of my first 12 or something. And was just... nothing was coming together. Any obvious synergies in my hand? Nah, not really. We'll see what card he puts on the board. Interesting he started with a corner starter. I think Yevon, in the Open GB, was playing a ton of side and center starters, and I've been seeing him play a lot of corners since. And I don't know if he's doing better. He's done well both ways. He might just be someone that is capable of starting any way and being effective with it. But I don't have a feel for what he does with starters. Yevon has also played 4 games, and all of them have been closed, despite playing random open closed. So that's probably not what he wanted out of that, because this is a closed or random GB, and when you play random, you're usually trying to angle your way into some open games, as, Dalial has done very effectively. Alright. I have some corners. Not supported, but corners nonetheless. But this is to say, we saw a weak corner in the last game. There's a perfectly good chance we see another weak corner, but we could also see something really different, because Yevon has I think, large toolbox. Given his hand, he had the 2-6-8-6. In open, he often, with a card like that, would start in 8 and just say you have no safety in 7 or 9. In closed, he's probably more cautious on that because he can't check whether you'll have ways to combo back. But I think in open, at least how he was playing a couple months ago, I think he would have started an 8 there. You did wish him luck, right? Cool. And he also has used the 5 starter to effect. Very mixed player, but maybe goes streaky on things. So I think if we saw a weak corner starter, there's a fair chance we're going to see another weak corner starter. Given my sort of thesis of the first turns of the game is maximize synergy, the easiest way to check for that, as I did last game, is kind of, do I have any numbers that pair and can I set up sames? And the value of sames over pluses or plus walls or same walls or whatever, not same walls, but over plus-based rules is larger in closed, because closed is such a scary game on combos. Specifically with combo on, I mean. In retrospect, when I said my corners weren't supported, I was missing that I could recapture 8-7-3-4 both ways. So, you know, barring anything else, if they chuck a card somewhere, maybe I'll play 8-7-3-4 in 7. That seems like some synergy in the hand. It's not a bad hand at all. It's got, you know, 2 strong opposite corners, a side to side and up down, and a general kind of killer of 7s. Seems a pretty good hand overall. Got 3 level 6s. No complaints on the hand front. Good hand. Complaints about second turn, as always. Second turn is a major disadvantage, but that's different. I think up downs and side to sides play better on second turn. They're kind of useful cards for sliding next to things, and I think sliding is just a much more common second turn thing. Like last game, they started in 7, I played 5, they played 6, and my 2 main moves to consider were sliding and 3. Sliding meaning playing next to a card of theirs with numbers under that card facing it, such that you have potential or at least the threat to combo back. And so my main moves there were sliding in 3 or sliding in 9. It is possible I overvalue sliding and undervalue just flipping stuff. I don't think I adjust well to different levels, because some levels combos just line up way more than others. And so on certain levels, a good closed player will know they can take stuff just more often. And, oh no. Well, that never happened. At least I kept talking the whole time. That's something I don't always manage. Hopefully can get another game. If not, yeah, whatever. Just want to play some triple triad, play some closed. Haven't made a video of closed happening in a while. I think, yeah, the first game I made 3 decisions that were highly debatable. And I'm, you know, more than my open videos, I would love feedback on my closed videos. Because I think the decisions are somewhat more subjective, but part of the reason it feels more subjective is just you can't math it out in the same way, or no one has done. And so I am curious where other players would do different things. Specifically, they're kind of... So in chess, this will seem weird, there's an international master named Eric Kislik who talked about the 6 facets of chess strength. Let's make sure I get this right, what they are. And I think Triple Triad has comparable things. Facets. All right, so we use concrete knowledge. So concrete knowledge is just things you know. It's like having an opening where you know the first 7 moves of theory in a certain variation, or you know the first 15 moves of theory, right? Or it's having an end game where you have king and 2 pawns versus king. Yeah, that's not a hard one, but like, you know, whatever. And you just know how to win it, right? It doesn't take conscious thought. You have automated it. It is automatic, right? You know this. It is free. You get it automatically correct, and you will do it as well as anyone else in the world would do it, because they have the same concrete knowledge as you. You know this, they know this. Now, that doesn't mean a beginner has, if they memorize some openings, has the same level openings as an advanced player, but they could certainly make the first 6-7 moves. They could have that concrete knowledge, right? Concrete knowledge does not port over that well to Triple Triad. I think the closest I've gotten to kind of doing that version is the very technical aspects of the game, which makes sense where it would line up. So it's things like in the always captures game, knowing what squares are correct, right? So essentially it's in closed non-combo games, knowing where you're supposed to play if you have cards that can at all justify it. And I think a lot of people are missing some concrete knowledge, but there's not that much concrete knowledge to have. There's sort of ideas like, here's how you build a hand, but I'm not sure that's quite concrete knowledge. It's not something you just have down, right? It's something you're sort of looking at cards and adjusting and working with. I think it's not all that concrete a game in the sense that you can just know certain things. So I think concrete knowledge is useful. I think having that basis of knowing what the correct squares to play in closed non-combo is really useful. And it's fairly similar to which squares you should look at first in open combo, so, or in other sets. So I think it's well worth having that concrete knowledge, but it is a much smaller part of the game. What's number 2? Pattern recognition. So pattern recognition is always going to be huge. Just spotting like sames and pluses or potentials for sames and pluses, I would consider that part of pattern recognition. Just any kind of, oh, that has a 4 to the right. You know, I have a 4 that lines up. Maybe I can set up a same or plus. Or that has a 4 to the right. I have a card with a 7 to the left and 3s up and down that now has potential to plus 8s. Just being aware and maybe looking to set stuff up about that is, I think, really important pattern recognition. And then there's also recognizing formations and having a sense for where the main moves are going to be. So I think pattern recognition is a bigger part, but again, I mean, it's not that likely that these things would port over exactly, but it's not quite describing something of super importance. Calculation. Weird one to talk about in closed. In open, calculation is obviously a huge component of the game. And in open, I think actually pattern recognition is probably a bigger part. Pattern recognition and calculation, I think, probably both go up in value. But I think closed has a fair amount of calculation too. Less, but still a noticeable amount. It doesn't need to go as many moves ahead. But for instance, if we look at that last game I played, after they went 7, I went 5, they went 6. When I'm trying to decide between moves, and I eventually played in 9, trying to find that kind of median case scenario is thinking, okay, if they play an 8, what do I probably have to play? And the answer was 4. And how is that position? So we haven't really gotten to evaluating that position. Maybe pattern recognition moves towards it. You know, we have this block structure where the bottom 2 rows are filled. They have 2 safeguards at the bottom. I only have 1. And they're on first turn. Maybe pattern recognition gets you to evaluating that as a big disadvantage. And I also, my hand remains overweighted to the right and underweighted to the left. Perhaps pattern recognition is what gets you there. I want to evaluate that in a different category we're going to get to. But also it requires a little calculation to get there, right? If they go 8, where do I probably have to go? 4, and then I have to evaluate. But I still have to calculate a move or 2 first. If they go 3, I get 8, and I'll have 2 locked-in cards to their 1. That seems pretty good to me, and that seemed favorable, and I ended up getting a tie. And a fairly comfortable tie, right? They were 1 number away from not being able to take my 5, and if they couldn't take, I win. If they could take, I tie. If they could combo, I lose. But I'm never losing worse than 6-4. All in all, pretty good result for second turn. So, okay. I think calculation is useful because you should be thinking, if I make this move, what are the normal replies? And then you need some method of evaluating, am I happy with that position? Am I unhappy? And kind of what's the midpoint of what's likely to happen. Okay, so calculation is a little part, but not that big. One part I think I could really potentially improve a lot on by making these videos, if people commented, is facet number 4, candidate moves. I'm sorry we haven't gotten another game. Kind of don't want to take Yevon's again if he's not taking mine. Maybe he doesn't want to play more. And I am looking to play closed right now, not open, so I would prefer someone take my game. So we'll leave it up a bit, and I'll finish talking about this, and if we haven't gotten a game by the time I stop babbling, we'll close the video. So, candidate moves. I went through the moves I considered and why, right? So in that J position, that was, I think, the kind of critical position of the game, cards in 7, 5, and 6, I looked at them in a different order than this, but just going through the squares by number, I did not seriously consider 1 at all. I think 1 creates a safe square in 4 and a T structure for my opponent. T's, I think, are very good for first turn. And it gave them 4, and there was no reason to believe I'd have any combo pressure against them going in 4. So it was really just giving them 4, I thought, for free. So I didn't like 1 at all. I did not seriously consider it. If there was a good idea in 1, I did not see it, right? And candidate moves are the moves you seriously consider. And the strength of candidate moves is A, do you consider the most important moves? B, do you not consider the unimportant moves, right? Because a player who's really good at candidate moves, it's not because they're considering everything. It's because they are correctly selecting, here are the moves worth spending time on, and here are the moves not worth spending time on. Ooh, we have an Akiyama game. That looks like it could be Clan League. All right, we're gonna open up another window on the side, and I'm gonna try to stalk that game if I can. Maybe that's what we'll be doing. But might take a little while for it to be taken and card select to be finished. Okay, so candidate moves is A, differentiating between the important and unimportant moves. Obviously, things like calculation and pattern recognition are relevant to that. And it's not spending time on the unimportant moves, but it's also throwing a kind of wide enough net that you do actually see all the important moves. So if there was a good move in 1, I did not see it. If there was a good move in 2, I did not see it. I only saw 1 card I could potentially play in 3. I thought the only card I could play in 3 was 6-6-3-6, and anything else in 3 was bad. I only saw 1 card I could play in 9. I saw 5-8-7-3 there and thought anything else was bad. I did not consider anything in 8, so if something like 5-8-7-3 and 8 was a good move, I'm skeptical of that, but if it was, I didn't see it. And I did not seriously consider moves in 4, so if 6-6-3-6 and 4 was a good move, I did not consider that. I had 2 candidate moves I took seriously, 5-8-7-3 and 9, and 6-6-3-6 and 3. And so if another player who is a good closed player says, I would have done this different move, it doesn't necessarily follow that, like, I made the wrong move, but it does follow, if it wasn't one of those 2 moves, that I did not seriously consider something important to seriously consider. And so I wouldn't even say it's like, I would say the main weakness there would be I didn't find a candidate move that I should have seriously considered, right? And so a useful thing, if you're talking through a game with someone who's a better player than you, or they're watching a game you play, and if it's closed, maybe you tell them the cards, a friend, and, you know, they're not telling you what to do during the game, but after a move, maybe they say, oh, I would have done this. That doesn't mean, oh, you should have done that, and you should now make that kind of move. But it might suggest if it wasn't a move you seriously considered, like, you gotta start seriously considering that type of move. That is a move that has some value that you are not evaluating as important as it is. And even in open, if like you're playing a game and a good player says, oh, I wasn't really paying attention, but like this move looked good to me. If you didn't consider that move, you should have considered that move, because the really good player, they may have only looked for 30 seconds and not near as seriously as they would have on their own game. But if they were drawn to that move, it's an important move and you should have spent time on it. So I think, all right, looks like Akiyama's game got taken. So I'm excited to hopefully in the watch game screen find that shortly. But candidate moves is where I really think is a place I could improve in closed. So specifically in that position after the J setup, I had 2 moves I seriously considered. And if you are a strong closed player, I would love to hear if you think I missed a serious possibility there. Then we have positional understanding. I think this one's just huge. I think a lot of this one comes down to, who can have locked in more cards. But positional understanding is things like, in that J setup where there are cards in 5, 6, and 7, if I go 9 and they go 8 and I have to go 4, we have a block, meaning there are cards filling 2 rows and 1 row is empty. And they have 2 safe cards and I have 1, and they're on first turn. I should evaluate that as very bad for me. That is my evaluation. If my positional understanding is wrong, that evaluation might not be right, but I would evaluate that as very bad for me and very good for first turn. Of course, I don't know his cards. He might also see that position, realize his remaining cards are really bad for that setup, and not go for it, right? Now, I think with his cards, in actuality, he should have. I think he had cards with pretty good down and side to side. So I think as the game played, he probably should have played 7, 6, 3, 5 in 8. But that does flip 5. So, okay. The reason he didn't go 8 was because he had 2 cards that could go in 8 without flipping 5. But if he uses those, he has to keep 7, 6, 3, 5 in his hand, which might be really bad in the resulting positions. Interesting. So it might have been harder for him to play an 8 than I thought, but I think what happened there was actually he just got unlucky with the cards in his hand and probably still should have played an 8. That's my inkling there. I suspect he still should have played an 8. Okay, what game's happening? Ah, it's going to be Brenn Akiyama. That's fun. Okay, still not happening. Brenn has an incredible record against Brotherhood of Seed and clan type events, for what that's worth. Okay, so I think positional understanding is just huge in closed. I think that is the main way to evaluate positions. And that might be indiscernible from his 6th facet of chess strength, which is logic. And I think logic is kind of that, if I go here, where are they likely to go? It's knowing to like think about the right things, right? It's knowing, okay, if I go 9, they're likely to go 8. If they have to flip 5, I have a really good reply in 3. If they don't have to flip 5, they might have combos back. That's going to be messier for me. I probably have to block 4, right? Is kind of reading out the logic of the position. And then reaching the eventual block from that calculation, you kind of have the positional understanding of, oh, this is terrible for me. So I think it's sort of some meld of logic and positional understanding is the main strength to closed. And I think it speaks to why, for instance, Turds is such a fantastic closed player. He came 2nd in closed player of the year. And yeah, it was just a great closed player. I think he's been doing as well as anyone in trade. He scored quite highly in the GBs. There's just a lot of evidence that Turds is either the best closed player around or very close to it. And I think one of his main strengths is he's very good at many logics of positions and logics of different rule sets and different types of positions. All right, we have a game. So I guess we'll leave my game up, but we'll watch this now. All right. So Akiyama, of course, insta-played his starter because it is Akiyama. Hopefully that whole babble about different strengths was interesting. I find it interesting for chess, so wanted to try to apply it. What matchup is this? I think this is Brotherhood of Seed versus TM. So this is Akiyama, Brenn, putting in the moves for my records. 8, 9, 1, 5 in 7. Okay, let's look at the hands. The Brotherhood of Seed people love that 971A, Arania. That is a card they really like. They have this all-female rule set. Okay, how's the starter supported? 4, 6, 5, 6, and 6, 7, 7, 5 are the natural recaptures. This is a pretty typical three-corner hand, where you have your starting corner, you have 2 recapturing cards, and you have cards for the adjacent corners for 1 and 9 that will give you balanced directional power after the starter is out of your hand, and also can function as backup capturers of the starter, right? Both of them can work as capturers of that starter if needed. Both of them are also tri-directional cards that make sure if they are the last 2 cards in the hand, there will be significant power in various directions. Now, maybe the 2, 8, 9, 7 is giving up some value because you could have a 9 on your a 10 on your level 9 card, but this seems like a typical and effective 3-corner hand to me. Brenn's hand has 2 opposite A9 corners. It is a 4-corner hand. It has a 9-9 for the other corner and then a 7-7 for the 4th, and 1 side to side. I think 2-8-5-8 in general is kind of low power. There are no 7s within the hand, and on this varied level set, there's not that high odds. There are going to be lots of 7s facing up. So the 2-5 part doesn't make a ton of sense to me. It doesn't seem like it's going to be, picking up a lot of cards, as it were, grabbing a lot of random combos. And the side-to-side 8-8, I don't know how well that's going to play in a world where 6 of the cards are filled with 9s. So I'm skeptical of 2-8-5-8. I think if you were going to go for the 4-corner hand, maybe you use the level 7 as another corner, and then you use the level 5 as your utility card, your non-corner card. But all in all, I think these are powerful choices. The A9s will have obvious power together, not super synergistic, but a strong 4 corners that I suspect he picked out in card select. This position, because Brenn has no threat in 8, I think the natural move for Akiyama is to block 4. You usually want to get the low-level cards out of your hand quick. They are your recapturers, but here A, recapturing will not be needed, and B, they are the weaker cards in your hand. If you're going to go in 4, 9, 7, 1A is going to be your star. Now, the downside of going in 4 is you concede 1 safely to them. Probably pretty hard to win if you go in 4 and they play unit in 1. Unless you can hit them with a big move in 5. So it doesn't go for that. All right, probably a much better move. Because I was just getting to, I actually didn't like the look of going in 4. Goes in 6. Comparably, if A259 lands in 9 now, Akiyama has the combo there. It does use up a powerful card and a card that's powerful in the direction of the game, but it might have immediate enough effect to be effective. For instance, Yuna in 2 can be comboed by 4, 6, 5, 6, and 5. And there's no combo back there. 2, 8, 5, 8, and 2 can be comboed by 6, 7, 7, 5, and 1 at the very least. So yeah, what Akiyama has noticed is you don't have good recaptures. And this is probably a tough position for Brenn. One move to consider is Yuna in 4. I also think it's always worth considering 8 here. Brenn takes safety in 9. This is also very logical. You do have to calculate it out, though. So I think the main move here is Arania in 8. And Brenn cannot play Yuna in 2 there. It's just comboed and you lose. If Brenn goes Yuna in 5, that makes it 5-5. but you have no right power left, so Akiyama just goes in 2 and takes you, and you have no captures, and you're down 6-4. If Yuna in 4 there... Yuna in 4 there. That makes it 5-5. There's nothing Akiyama has to defend. All his cards are safe. So I think Akiyama there can just go... I was thinking 1, but I actually don't think that wins. So I assume 9-7, 1A, and 8 is happening, but 9-7, 1A, and 8, Yuna in 4. If you go in 1, the problem is if you go with 4-6, 5-6, Brenn can go in 2 with 4-1-7-7, and I believe he gets the tie there. And if you go with 6-7-7-5, Brenn can do it with A2-5-9, and does get the tie there too. So I think if you go in 8, Brenn has a tie in 4. Huh. That's tricky. Alright, so he does go in 8. So I thought 4A, 9, 6, and 4. Makes it 5-5. If you go in 5, it's still 5-5. And against either card, Brenn can capture with, say, 4-1-7-7 and 2, goes up 6-4, and you only capture 1 card back at the end. That's a tie. If you go in 2, it's 5-5. You cannot set up a threat against Brenn's card in 4, so Brenn could, if nothing else, just block 1, and we'll get at least a tie. And if you go in 1 there, if you go with 4-6-5-6, then Brenn can take with 4-1-7-7 and you have no captures. If you go with 6-7-7-5, then Brenn can take with A2-5-9 and you have no captures. So I believe Yuna in 4 is Brenn's tie. It's also possible he has a move in 1. You definitely can't rule out ties in 1, but there's no way he's winning this position because this position looks like garbage. 2 and 5 lose, 4 is a tie. I would honestly just play the tie and not... I mean, I double check, but I would play the tie. I would not spend time looking at 1 because I just think the odds of it winning are 0. And I think they actually just are 0. You don't even need to check anything. You can just say, I'm never capturing more than 1 card on my final turn, and I'm down 6-4. If I capture 2 cards, it's because I'm recapturing the card I put in 1. So the score can never be better than 5-5 for me after I go in 1, so that has no winning chances, so I don't need to check it. I should go in 4 for my tie. In the meantime, we've been waiting for our game for some number of seconds. Unclear how many, we can't see it, but I would guess 1500-ish. A good 25 minutes-ish. Yeah, that seems about right for how long this video's been going. So can Brenn find Yuna in 4? Or have I miscalculated something? I do not think I have. So our question is, can Brenn find Yuna in 4? Not easy, but also not impossibly hard, but Brenn is often playing on the move or not the most invested. So, yeah, could go whichever way. I think Brenn's move in 9 was pretty good, actually, because I think it probably did tie. But I do think this is not an easy tie to see at distance, so 2-8, 5-8, and 9 is a scary move to make. And I suspect he played it seeing safety and assuming it would be good enough, rather than having thoroughly checked this. I want to place a bet on whether what Brenn will find 4. I think he will. I think Brenn will find the move in 4. I retract everything. I never thought he would find the move in 4. Oh, this might work too, though. yeah, like I was saying, of course Brenn's going to tie. Brenn has this under control. He'll calculate everything. He's got this. Yeah, so I didn't see that this tied. I checked other moves and found a different tie and didn't check further, which I think is strategically reasonable because, again, this isn't going to win. But this very much looks like a tie. If Akiyama plays in 5, Brenn plays Yuna in 4. No card in 5 captures 2. In fact, 2 is just safe. Brenn will then go up 6-4, and Akiyama only captures 1 back for a tie. If Akiyama goes in 1, Brenn can go in 5, and Akiyama has no captures in the middle of the board, which is always fun. And so that will also be a tie. And if Akiyama goes in 4, he can't set up to have a threat in 1, so Brenn could at least go 5 and capture a card with Yuna and get a tie. So nicely held by Brenn. I don't know whether I won or lost that bet. I think I won it. I'm going to claim I won it because he played a tie. It just wasn't the tie, right? He found a different idea. So I think if you're Brenn here, you survived a difficult position. And if you're Akiyama, you created a position where you had no losing chances and the opponent had to do something clever to tie. So I think both players can be reasonably happy with their performance this game. There's a chance, Akiyama had something higher pressure than 6, but it seems to have given Brenn a pretty narrow path to a tie, even if it was slightly less narrow than I thought. So overall, I think this is probably just a nice, well-played Clan League game. Let's check in on my game. Nope, never going to be taken. Yeah, so he eventually goes 4-6, 5-6, and 5. Brenn plays 4-A, 9-6 in 4. 6-7, 7-5 will go in 1. 8-2, 5-9 left over. And we have a tie. Brenn continues his streak of he never loses to players from boss. Which is a pretty impressive streak, to be honest. I'm glad to see someone using the 3 corners hands. I think they haven't been getting a lot of play, despite some of my videos advertising them. And I think Akiyama got good pressure out of it. I think he had a nice hand advantage. Brenn's move in 3, I suspect not very good, but not clear how to punish. 4 gave up safety in 1, 6 is in the game, gave up safety in 9. Tricky position. 10 users online, no games active. That is a shame. These beautiful games up. But I guess we'll probably call it a day. Been going for a while, watched a game, played a game. Again, would love feedback on the game. I'm very curious if people have different candidate moves than me. I think that's one of the main things I could look at to improve on. Though I also think I didn't handle the logic great, right? In my closed game. So I think I gotta work on the kind of logic, making sure I'm not just going, if I go here, they go there, but saying, if I go here, where are they probable to go? Where are they next most probable to go? How do I feel about the likely resulting positions there? Getting an overall evaluation there, and thus doing a better job of comparing moves, right? Because my suspicion is my candidate moves were pretty good in that one, that it wasn't one with that many options. So I guess maybe not an example of candidate moves, but it also makes me think if I did miss a big candidate move, it was totally off my radar, and I would love to see it because it was just so alien to me that anything else could be there. So we have candidate moves as a potential area for improvement, and then the kind of logic into evaluation sphere, I think, is probably where I made my mistake. Because I really think I should have gone in 3, not 9. And I think I failed that because I did not get the logic right. And the move after, I may have messed up the logic too, though probably it was basically the same either way. All right, cheers.